computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Alrighty, I think we're good to go. Welcome to the stream. Today we are working on animation. So I wanted to do some animations for my character, and I want to be able to interact with objects. So the main idea for this game is it's going to be a very story-driven game. So I want a lot of interaction with objects. You walk up to a bookshelf, and it will be able to see what I'm trying to say here. You'll be able to interact with it, and then the character will do a little animation, and then it'll bring up a little bit of text explaining kind of the lore behind that object. This may also introduce some NPCs, so later on when in the development process, I definitely want to add some NPCs to the game to interact with. Alrighty. So first of all, I want to be able to interact with the objects in this scene. So this is kind of where the player starts out in the game. And currently, this is what I got going on right now. So when I press play, I can run around the game. I can't interact with anything currently. Might be nice to be able to use the bed. You never know. Or use a chair. Or use the bookshelf. So, let's just run around a little bit. We'll be able to see what kind of scene. I made it so the character can walk up and down stairs. So that is pretty nice. And you can walk up and down these ones. It's pretty simple, just a plane on the ground so the player can walk up and down the slope. Not really anything too special there, pretty old school. And you may want to be able to interact with the soup pot. Alright, let's get some animations going here. So I'm just going to go into the animation window here and start working. Alrighty. I think what we'll do, because all my animations are kind of here centered in the world, I actually want to grab my character and make sure that my character is in the proper collection, except M-pad is not on. There we go. Here's my player. Just select everything in here. Select objects. What else am I collecting? Okay, so I got these. Let's get rid rid of those. Okay, looks like that should be everything. Grab that camera. There we go. Hey, welcome. Yes, welcome to the stream. We're doing animations today. It's probably not gonna be super game heavy, but mostly animations and then setting up animations. So we'll see how long it takes me to get some of the animations working, because I want to be able to interact with the bookshelves, I want to be able to interact with what's on tables and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're doing today. In fact, I also want to do the chest, so being able to open and close the chest and maybe interact with the bed. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of animating today. Alrighty. And then perhaps later on I want to do some dialogue, so doing dialogue trees and things like that in the future. Okay, I'm going to grab this bookshelf, and I want to duplicate it and move it over here for the character to interact with, just as a reference. And I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to select all the objects the player is attached to. In fact, I want to grab this and deselect these again. There we go. And with those selected, let me just make a new collection, and I'll just select the player collection, and we'll call this animation collection. There we go. Let's kind of put everything in here. This will allow me to also turn off and on my characters, so I'm going to put this in the animation collection as well. And then we got this bookshelf as a reference, so that'll be cool. Okay, let's turn that back on. And I think for the sake of animation, I'm actually going to hide that backpack for now, just to make everything a little bit easier to see. There we go. So now the bookshelf, how close do we want the player to be? I think I'm going to move this back just a little bit. In fact, I want to select my objects again. So select objects. There we go. And I just want to do a invert selection. In fact, I'll select that too, because I actually don't want to see any of this stuff right now while I'm animating. So I'm just going to go select, invert selection, and I'm just going to hide all that. So we just have the player and our bookshelf. Then I might as well set this all to the center of the world, like so, and bring it up. There we go. And so while we're doing this, since I'm going to do a lot of animations, I'm just going to keep the player here while I do my animations, just to keep everything nice and clean. And then I'm going to just add my objects as I need them. Alrighty. So for the bookshelf, I think I'm going to move it just slightly back, because I don't need the character to be right inside of that bookshelf. And then I'm going to add a new animation, and we'll just delete that, do a new one, and we'll call this search bookshelf. If I can spell. There we go. Sweet. Alrighty. So I think for searching the bookshelf, I think we'll just do it probably 60 seconds, so it'll take 1 second in the game to search, which I think won't be too long to annoy people, but just long enough to where you can visually see something happening. There we go. Because we don't want to annoy players with our animations. So currently he's in this this kind of encumbered state, so I'm actually going to take this stuff, and I want this to be about the same as, let's see, the idle animation. So going from the idle animation into the search animation. So I'm just going to grab the first frame of the search animation, go down to the search animation, and just drop that on here, except I can't, because that's cool. Should be able to. Maybe I can't do it in this version. Well, that's too bad. It's fine. We're just going to press I, because we are in the idle animation state anyways. So now I just added a new keyframe. That'll be nice. And let's just go for, I think we'll just keep it to the middle of the shelf, since I think all of my shelf objects have this middle shelf beam. So, because I know that some of them are broken. And maybe you just won't be able to interact with the broken shelves. Now that we have this, I also want to grab a book. See if I have a book object available. There's one. So I'll just grab that book object, and if I can select it, get out of animation mode, so I can actually select this thing. And I just want to duplicate it and set it to the player, because I'm going to spawn this book every time. So when the character is searching, character will pick up a book off the shelf and then kind of read it. So I can just go ahead and hide this book again, once we have our new book. There we go. And I'm just going to set it kind of right here where we're searching, like so. I don't know if I'll have the pages spread open on the book. We'll have to see about doing that, or probably cut the book in half and then put some bones in it, or use shape keys. We'll see how that works out, since we will only be doing one animation. So with the character selected, I'm just going to have the character move forward. So I think we'll do one step. So the character will take one step forward and then interact with the book. So let's just take this foot over here, since it's its far foot, and just move it forward. And then I will move the pelvis forward as well. Now I need to make my knee actually face the right direction. Oh, welcome. Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise stream, as I do. Try to get a stream at least in the middle of my day, but I know that a lot of people are going to bed at this time, so it's kind of a bad timing thing. I just have 20 minutes of free time, so I will rewatch it later. Nice to see you working on your personal project. Yeah, thank you. And it'll be great. Yeah, hopefully it'll have some good information in it. We're going to be doing a lot of animations. So thank you for checking it out when you can. Alrighty. So now that we have the character moving forward a little bit, this foot is a little bit off the ground, so we will see about fixing this. Let's just add our keyframes. The character is kind of moving forward. But I want this foot to still be on the ground. So let's see. How can I do that without making it seem too slidey? I think what we will do is just move this foot just slightly forward, and then tilt the foot down, or tilt it up, and then we'll move the hip downward. Animation, GPBG, and Blender in general is my kryptonite. Oh yeah, animation, I think for me personally, animation is what I enjoy the most. I'm not the best at animation, like I'm not a pro animator or anything, but it's really therapeutic in a way. There's something about just posing characters and getting a cool result afterwards, which is really, really nice. But I can understand, like it took me, I mean, it took me a long time just to get the basics of animation down. Okay, so I want this hip to tilt down, so our character's foot will get closer to the ground here. And that is still a little bit wacky looking. Kind of want to move the knee forward. And then we'll fix this foot so it doesn't look like he's breaking his ankle. There we go. Like that a little bit better. Get that right on the green line. And let's see. I think we'll move the character down a little bit just to get a little bit of bend in the knee, so it doesn't look like super stiff. Do something like that, and then just flatten it out. So the character now has taken a step. I'm going to save that keyframe just so I don't lose it on accident. And we have a little bit of a step forward. Now, people don't just drag their feet when they're walking, so I want to make it so this foot raises up just a tiny bit. So on frame 10, I'm just going to raise this foot up. So grabbing the IK rig. So just a slight, I don't want him to be doing a high knee or anything like that. And just a slight step forward. We can see over here. And I'm kind of focusing on the bottom half of the rig right now, just so that I can get the legs figured out before the arms start getting involved. That way we're not working with too many keyframes and it gets frustrating. But I just want to get that step working here. Now it looks like it's a little bit funky, so I kind of want to get the leg to pivot out just slightly, like so. And it looks a little bit too robotic. Let's see if I can't get maybe I'll just tilt the foot a little bit. See how that looks. There we go. Looks a little bit more natural. Now obviously I want my character to be looking at the book that we're going to pick up. Nobody here? Why are you creating poses for movement? There is no built-in animation for it. Wait a minute, what? Nobody here? Why are you creating poses for movement? Is there no built-in animation for it? No, I'm doing my own animation. Nice stuff, man. Just wanted to say that your tutorials are such a lifesaver. Keep it up and create Brazil 1550. Oh, right on. Nobody. New to animation. Oh, newbie. Sorry, I read that wrong. A little bit of dyslexia here. New to animation. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, okay, I understand your question. Why are you creating poses for movement? Is there no built-in animation for it? So yeah, I'm just building my poses out, and I like let's see, how do I want to explain this? Straight ahead animation is kind of my style, where I'm not doing solid poses because I'm not trying to do like crazy movement. Like the character is standing in one spot, a little bit of movement forward, and then, but overall the character isn't going to be moving from the stationary position. So I don't need to block out super crazy motions. Like if I was doing a jump animation, for example, I'd want to block out my poses. So I have my up pose, down pose, probably a middle pose, and then my jump pose. And then you just animate the in-betweens to kind of make that a little bit more fluid. What I'm doing is straight ahead animation, where as I animate, I'm just posing the character and then doing a keyframe, and then kind of blocking out my animation as I move ahead. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Okay, what are we working on here? Okay, so we got the legs moving now. So as the character moves forward, I kind of want the character to look at the object that we're going for, which is this book. I'm just going to go frame 10 again, and then have the character look down. I do have this keyframe up here, so it's going to want to pivot up again, so I'll just copy that and put it down. Yeah, glad to help. I hope I can help out a little bit. I hope I can make some sense. The character is going to look down at the book for now, which is good enough. And right now the character is kind of a little bit sideways, so I want this arm, or I want the chest to pivot in as we get into our frame 20 here. And I want to reach with my right arm. Hey, welcome to the stream. We were just doing some animation. Okay, so I want the hips to also kind of pivot. So we're going to pivot the hips. And the head is starting to get way off track, so we'll fix that here in a second. And I think, let's see, how should the character be searching? So should it do like a little bit of a search and then grabbing the book, pull it off, and then open it up? Or should it just go straight to the book? Maybe we'll try straight to the book, since it's only going to be 60 frames. And we don't want to try too much and try to fit too much inside of 60 frames. There we go. Since we're going for a 1 second animation. Just reach. That arm is a little bit funky. Let's try to fix that. Try to get this pose somewhat natural looking. Get the head to look at the book again. Maybe we'll move this arm up and move it forward. There we go. Yeah, glad to be back on here. So, welcome. How's it going? Alrighty, let's see. Okay, let's add a keyframe there and just see how that looks. See if it's any good at all. Character's moving in. Obviously, this arm is really stiff. We got a Terminator arm here, so we're going to want to smooth that out as best as we can. And I think what we'll do is add a little bit of drag to the arm. And I also want the arm to kind of be closer into the body so that it clears. You can see that we clip through the shelf right here, and we don't want that to happen. So as we come up, I'm just going to make it so this arm is going to be just back a little bit. And so we're kind of reaching up and over that first shelf. So I'm going to put my keyframe in 10 and right like that. And then we're reaching, so we're going down and then up towards the book, like so. And I think the feet are still in a decent spot. We got a little bit of slide there with this back foot, so we're going to want to fix that. Oh, I understand. You are doing what you're doing now in the game. You walk up to the object and you can interact with it, then the game takes over for the movement for the action, like reloading a weapon animation. Yeah, pretty much. So basically we're just making, as you walk up to the bookshelf, the character is going to take over for probably about a second, maybe 2 seconds at the most, because you don't want to take control away from the player for too long. And so just kind of that second to search animation, and then it'll open up the text block that the player can read from the shelf, or open and get an item, one or the other. Bone in my vision, pretty silly. Oh yeah, some of the bones are a little bit funny. You can change the bone types too if you want. So you can actually go over to, like, I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but you can go over to your armature and change the shape of your bones. I like the default, so B bones are pretty silly. Yeah, I like these default bones. Okay, so going back into here, I think what we'll do, maybe that foot needs to come up just a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more lift. There we go, that's a little bit better. And let's see if we're getting too much jitteriness with the head, like it kind of looks like he's going, "Ugh," so we don't want that to happen, so we want to smooth that out. So yeah, you can see looking over, looking back, but we kind of just want the focus to be always on the book. So let's do something like that. And I did the wrong keyframe, that's my bad. So right here, there we go. So kind of just looking down, and I kind of want the character to look down and then kind of go up. So it'll go, oh, okay, that's what I want. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Silly and annoying. Yeah, I can understand that. So let's see what we got here. What is the name of the game? Currently the name is Lost King. So basically the main character is a king, and the premise is that you are trying to save your people by bringing them into the mountain keep. It obviously is not the best decision for you to make, because you're trying to run away from an army, but you're going into a spot where all your people are going to basically starve to death. It's kind of a morals game. So it'll be testing the character's morals, and then as the character progresses and makes decisions with people, you can either be a good person, bad person, or someone in between. Depending on your result at the end of the game, you will get a certain ranking, and basically, were you a good person, a bad person, or just like, you just didn't care. So it's going to be kind of that deal. And so you'll be able to run through the game and then try to get either the good ending, the bad ending, or kind of a mediocre ending. It's kind of going to be one of those kind of games. So, okay. But I think the main premise is going to be very heavily story-based. Okay. This question is a bit of a off topic, but have you done any sound triggers in your games yet? Or do you have tutorials on it? I don't know if I have any specific tutorials on sounds. In fact, it's probably, like, out of all the tutorials I made, it's probably one I should have made. Sound triggers are actually not hard to do. I mean, basically, especially if you're doing, okay, for example, let's say a horror game. You have a horror game, you want a certain sound effect to trigger when the character gets to a certain part of the level. Maybe you're walking down a hallway and then you want, like, some orchestral music or something to start playing and to fade in. Basically, you'll just add a collision. So you'll do like a collision volume type deal. As the player walks into it, it'll send a message to a a sound trigger, it'll play a sound. Once the sound is finished, then it just stops. I don't think it would be that hard. In fact, if I did make a tutorial, it'd probably only be like 2 minutes long, since it's not really that big of a topic, or that there's not much to it. But then again, I guess I could make it more of a video if I start doing some implementation stuff, which I think would be the way to go. And we might get into it, depending on how far I decide to go through my game design on these live streams. I'll probably end up doing sound design at some point. Okay. So let's see how that goes. How is sound done for a revving car? So I think for sound for a revving car, you could do like a loop. So you have like a rev loop that you want, and then you'll just play that loop over and over and over and over, which can sound annoying. So maybe you want some longer rev sounds. Either way, you would just have it so it plays on loop. And then as an action is happening, so you have like, as the car is driving, or maybe you're doing a burnout or something, you'll have that rev sound just going, and then once the character either lets off or starts to gain traction, you'll start moving, and then that will turn into just a engine driving sound. Ragdolls without bones. Ragdolls are kind of complicated in the newer versions, since they got rid of... I don't think ragdolls are really the way to go in the newer versions. If you're going to do ragdolls, I'd recommend using the older versions, just because it's a lot easier. You can't spawn ragdolls in the newer versions, at least with logic nodes. Yeah, I hope it helped. Hope that made sense. Alrighty. Someday I'm going to get into this animation. So I think we are okay enough for this first kind of animation. So we want to move on to grabbing the book now. So I think at frame 30, let's just have this arm move just in and forward, just a tad bit. We don't want to stretch our character too much, otherwise it's going to look a little weird. Now the interesting part is going to be interacting with the book and the armature at the same time, because in the game it would have to be... Oh, that's going to be interesting. So I think what I'll do is take this book, and it's going to look a little bit weird at first. So I'm just going to parent this. Oh, let's see, how do I want to do that? Trying to think about doing my animations and then adding it into the game engine at the same time. So maybe I'll spawn the book in the game and then do a parent in game. So that way it'll just parent to the wrist. So in that case, I would have to add in a empty for this book to grab onto. So let's just add an empty here first, like so. And then I think what I'll do is a constraint. So I'll do like a copy rotation and location constraint. That way I don't have to mess around with it too much. So I'm just going to parent this empty to the wrist. So we'll just go to parent bone. There we go. So now if I just have that selected, okay, so we have an empty there. Let's see. Oh, everybody is in some way or another, you know? Okay. So let's just call this hand. Well, I'll just do hand underscore socket. And what I'm going to do is grab this book, and I want to go over to our modifiers. Oh, actually, let's see. Constraints. Yeah, let's do a copy location constraint so it'll work in the game. And I'm just going to copy the rotation of hand socket for the location. Let's see if I can add, can I get any kind of offset on that? Let's see. Yeah. If I want, I need the influence all the way, so I might have to animate the influence of this a little bit, because obviously it's just gonna be like a parent. So then I also want to copy the rotation. So let's just add a copy rotation constraint. Copy the rotation of the hand as well. Hey, welcome to the stream. Okay, so there we go. Now we got, the book is just basically parented to our character. And I believe if we press play and we actually enter the game, let's see how that works. Oh, maybe not. Let me just go over to our layout. Kind of curious if, because you can use constraints. Maybe we won't worry about it too much right now. It might just be a little too advanced for current times. So we're doing interaction animations. And so when you interact with an object, it'll play an animation before giving dialogue or anything like that. Okay, let's just make it so we can pick up this book for now. So I will just go to frame 30. And I'm just going to lean the character forward just a tad, just to give us a little bit more distance. There we go, and just straighten out the arm just slightly, allowing us to pick up this book. Tilt the wrist down. I wonder if dynamic parent would actually work for this. That might actually be an interesting thing to try out. I haven't used that in a long time. Okay, so now we can grab the book. Kind of got our character leaning forward. And I think as we lean forward, do just a tiny bit of a bounce. There we go. Just to make it a little less stiff. There we go. So let's just grab this book and just do what I was going to do and parent. In fact, we'll just parent it to the empty object transform. And then we will do a keyframe. So at frame 30, I want a keyframe at its location. And what I want to do is make sure at frame 1 it also is at that location. Let's see. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, okay. Getting a little bit of snap there. Small touches you made to the... Oh. Man, it's so hard for me to read sometimes, so I'm so sorry. Those small touches you made to the dending have great effect. Is that supposed to be bending? Have a great effect? Sorry if I have a hard time reading some of the comments. Oh yeah, bending. Okay, yeah. I think it's actually the way I have it currently. You can actually see. I find that it's best to, when making a model, what I like to do is just make it so. Can you change the icon or not? I'm not sure. That might be something you want to ask a dev about, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have not had the best of luck with it. UPBG is pretty much alive, but the guy that did the builds is not very active lately, so you need to get the latest version on Discord. Yeah, my recommendation is if you're going to be serious about using UPBGE, make sure that you have the official Discord for UPBGE, because that way you can ask questions. There'll be people in there that can help you, and there are people that will help you do build or help you fix problems. We have had some pretty good luck in that department. Okay. I'm not really liking this so far, so I'm just gonna clear that. So I think for now what I'll do is I'll just kind of shadow animate this to where it's just acting out holding the book, and that'll work fine. Okay. So grab the book. I think we want to do I think we'll do a little bit of a pause. So we'll grab the book, pause, and then go into basically the idle animation again. So like this. And then at frame 40, I think, or at frame 50, I think 43, we'll kind of do the same thing with the arm where we go up, except we'll have both arms out. So. Because I kind of want the character to open the book. There we go. Kind of move this wrist, straighten that out a little bit. Not like that. And move that one up a little bit. Because kind of imagining that the character is pulling the book off the shelf and then going to be opening it up. kind of a little bit of an imagination here. And I also need to fix the foot. I need the character to lift their foot up again. Kind of like so. There we go. Move forward, move back. And then obviously we need to fix the arms. So I need to just grab the arm bones here. Make sure that the arms are still in the same position. There we go. Like that. Looks like he's going to hold a rifle or something. With this kind of editor. Oh yeah, see you later. Take care. Alrighty. This is just the animation editor as well. And I think for the arms, maybe doing, just grab the book and then see the book this way. Put the book in the character's hand. This. And I think, let's see, how do I, you're grabbing a book off the shelf, kind of pulling it forward, so maybe, oh, let's see. Yeah, let's do a keyframe there, just to see. And the book is moving faster than the person, character. So, character is moving about here. There we go. And obviously, want the book to slide on the shelf and not go through the shelf. There we go. And then at frame 50, I want the book to be between both hands, and I think tilted, just like that. And then the character will tilt it and then open it up. So I think we'll do it that way. My funny game is Trash War. Nice. That'll be an interesting game. Okay. So, ooh. I think that's a little bit too fast. I don't really like how quick that the character is moving. So I think what I'm going to do is just grab our character here. And we're kind of starting, yeah, I think it's just too fast, going from frame 30 to 50. So I'm actually going to make this animation 120 frames. Because I want this to be a little bit more spread apart. I don't want it to be super, super fast. So let's just move that to frame 80. So, okay, I think I like that a little bit better. Then I'll do the same thing with the book. And do frame 80. Obviously, I got to fix a few of these things because the character doesn't start moving until 45. So I'm just going to move this here and then scale it down to about 45. And then do a few touch-up animations to get that looking a little bit better. So just starting out. So book is sliding. And I think the character's arm needs to be fixed just a little bit since we did add a few extra keyframes there. So just kind of fixing the arm like that. And his arm slides down quite a bit. So I think what we'll do is just take this arm, move it up, like so. And now I need it to move. It's kind of the tedious part about doing these kind of animations, especially without... Oh, nice. Kind of the tedious part about making these animations without parenting the object. You just got to make sure it doesn't slide around too much. And we got to remember that the characters can be seen from like this angle. So I think that doesn't look too bad from above. In fact, let's just open up, go into the camera view here and we can see. As well as here. Check out that animation. There we go. And then we'll do just kind of a fold out animation. Alrighty, so grab that, and I just want the character to, if I can actually see what I'm doing here, I want the character to rotate body like so. Head is going to stay straight. And just make sure, just a little bit more. open the book. Okay. There we go. That should be good. And then maybe move this arm in just slightly. As well as this one. Okay, do a keyframe there. And I'm just going to the book just like this. And then I need the open variant of this book as well. But I think this will be fine for now. Okay, so this will get replaced with a different variant of the book. But I'm going to add the keyframe anyways. Okay, perfect. Kind of like that, actually. Just as an exercise, let's just take this book, and I think I have the open book version. Book face down. Yep, that's it right there. So I'm going to grab this book, duplicate it, send it to the player, and then I can hide this book. Not that one, but the one below it. And then I'm just going to put it right where this one is. Clear the rotation on the Z-axis so it's flat. And then I'm going to rotate this book 180 degrees, like so. So now this book needs to go right here, where the arms are kind of at. It is a different color, but that's fine for now. We're going to change that later, because I don't want this book to be just pure black, because in the dark, because this is going to be a very dark game, I don't want it to blend in with everything else too much. There we go. Give these hands a little bit of a... And this keyframe needs to be right here. There we go. So, we got the book now. Open it up, and it'll just kind of pop into this new book here. So this one will go invisible, and then it'll be this book underneath. Currently, we can just grab our book, open it up. We can kind of demonstrate that by unhiding this. We will just add a keyframe. I think we'll do a keyframe right here at 90. And we'll just make it visible. And then at 91, we'll make it invisible. And we'll do the same thing with our eye here. Oh, I guess we can't, since this is the game engine. Can't do that. And I want to make There we go. Maybe I can. Is that kind of a weird thing? So it's okay. All right. Actually, if I press play here, it's visible. And then if I press play here, it's invisible. Okay, so you can actually animate the visibility that way. That's kind of cool. Didn't even know that. So I'm going to do the same thing for this book. I want this to be invisible on frame 90, and on frame 91, I will have it be visible. So when I press play, it'll be visible. If it's before that frame, it's invisible. Now, obviously, I'm probably going to end up spawning these in. This is just for testing purposes. So you can grab the book, and then it will spawn like that. Okay. Obviously, I need this to be just a bit lower. In fact, I think what I'll do is put this down here so that it will spawn in the same spot. Okay, we got a little bit of clipping right here, which is okay, I think. It's not terrible. Won't really be able to see it anyways, but I think that's good. I think we got our bookshelf animation done. Won't put too much more time into that for now. I'll just finish I'll probably clean it up a little bit off camera anyways. But that is our basic search the bookshelf animation. Fun part's going to be actually implementing this, because you want to make it so the character actually faces the object that you interact with. So that'll be kind of interesting. Okay. So this book and this book, I think what I will do, because this is going to have its own animation, so I want to call this book underscore search, like so. And then this one will be, in fact, I'm actually just going to delete the keyframes, and that will get deleted later because we want to clean up, and then we'll do unsaved data blocks. Kind of get rid of the stuff that isn't being used. Alrighty. So this open book face down, in fact, I'm going to put both of these. I'm going to make a new collection and call this Interact Books. Put those in their own collection so that I can hide them and interact with them later, and they will be separated. Okay. The big thing, yeah, that's gonna be fine. Alrighty. I think what we can do now is actually get rid of this bookshelf since it's no longer needed. And I'm actually going to just hide these for the current time. Visibility, and I'm gonna hide all those. Now, I think what I can do is Alt-H, just unhide everything. Obviously, I'm going to be stuck in the floor. Just wanted to test out that stuff. Okay, and that all looks good. So I'm just going to find my player collection, animation, select objects. This is a test, and we'll just drop the character right here. Ooh, got a little bit stuck there. What am I stuck on? Am I like slightly stuck in the floor? Kind of odd. So now what I need to do is make it so when the character walks up to this bookshelf, I need to actually be able to interact with it. So, and it's going to be kind of interesting because it's going to be top-down, kind of Zelda style. So what I need to do is make it so this will all go transparent, but you'll still see the animation play. And then it'll just face the proper direction on bookshelves that are facing the direction the camera's facing. So, but for now, we want to make it so this is going to have its own hitbox. In fact, I'm going to go over to stuff. And each one of these books right now, you can definitely tell this is not game safe here. Each one of these books is its own object, which is just unnecessary performance loss. And the reason they're their own object, you can see they're all different colors. And the way I set them up, because this was for a rendering project and not a game, when I connect these all together, they're all going to be the same color. Like that. Which I guess is okay, but obviously you want a little bit of extra, like you want a little variation. This will be fine for now though. So I think we'll just keep it like that just for the sake of performance. So we're not having to render every single book type. Plus the player won't even be able to see these books. So it's not really necessary. But what we want to do is make it so these are all no collision. We don't want these to be collidable, and we don't want this bookshelf to be collidable. Actually, you know what? We'll just use it as its own hitbox. So we'll just add a collision box there. We'll just save ourselves the trouble of putting in a separate hitbox. Now what I want to do is make it so I need a collision volume here. So I'm just going to add a cube, and I'm going to add a new collection, and I'm just going to call this like Interact or something. I don't know. Interact. Now I'm going to make this invisible by just going over to the viewport display and making this a wire object. So make it so it doesn't show up in the game. We don't have to worry about it. Which is pretty nice. I have to move the character at some point. I don't know why I'm getting... Oh, does this have collisions? Am I running into... collision? Strange. So weird that I'm all of a sudden running into issues there. Anyways, going back to our object here, I'm just going to call this bookshelf. Shelf? Good enough. And I'll just make this about the same size as the bookshelf, just kind of in front. Don't really need to do it on these sides. Because what I'm going to do is make it so the player, when colliding with this and you actually interact with it, like say you press E, what I want to do is make it so it's going to snap the player to this location. So after we snap the character to that vector location, we'll have the character also face the bookshelf. So that way when you play the animation, it's not going to be like your character's going to be off to the side doing the book animation. You don't really want that to happen. And then we'll have to also make it so the character can't move once the animation starts playing, because that'll not be so good. Okay, so currently we want to go into layout, go back to our logic bricks here, and my stomach is growling. Must be hungry. Alrighty. So this is currently on static, which I think is going to be fine since we're using it we want the collision data on it. But I'm going to put it as a ghost so that the character can actually walk through it, and we'll be able to interact with the inside of that. I don't think I'm going to put the interact script inside the player script. I'm going to make a new script, and I'm just going to select the player object here. Animation's a little funky. It's fine. So click with that. What have I missed? Not much. Basically, I just added this volume here. So we're going to be interacting with it. I'm going to start doing some logic and make it so the player can interact, and then it'll play the animation and lock the player to that location. So that's basically what we're doing. Okay. So I'm going to add this new script, and this is just going to be my interact script. Right, like that. And I think I'm actually going to move my character up here just to make things easier so we're not getting stuck on that. I've got to figure out why we're getting stuck on that, but that's fine. So let's just move the character up like so. I think we should be fine up here. Oh yeah. So we're not getting stuck on the volume, so that's good. So let's select the player object, and I want to apply my script. My interact script to my player. And let's see. So let's give this a name. Oh, we got it as bookshelf, and I think I want that a little bit. I want that to be bookshelf interact as well. We're using yeah, this is 3.6. So I'm using 3.6 because it's a lot. It doesn't run into as many issues as 4.2. 4.2 has a few features logic-wise that I would like to use, but I'm just going to forgo it for this project for the sake of stability. Okay. So what I need to do is make it so when our player collides with this object, we want to just set the position. So let's just go in here, go object, and I want a set world position. And I want this to happen. We want I don't think we have gates. I think it's still an and here. Yep. So and, because I want two triggers. I want to say when we're colliding and when we press the E key. So I'm going to grab the key down node. So we'll go key down. And I want this to be on tap. We're going to use E because E is my favorite interact button. F is not my thing. And I want a collision. So we'll add a collision. Drop that in there when colliding. And what we want is when this is happening each frame. If it's on once, sometimes you'll be pressing the button and it just won't work. We'll try both just to test it out. Because there is a benefit to just using once. When the player collides with it once, then you won't have to. It won't be as performance heavy. Each frame is going to be checking each frame, and we all know how that goes. What we can also do is put a pulsify on here, so we'll be able to check each frame, but we'll be skipping a few frames to save performance. So that's one way to, whatchamacallit. Totally forgot what I was talking about. Okay, anyways, colliding the object that I'm going to select because the script is on the player, so I'm just going to do the self icon there. And the property is going to be called interact. We're using the word interact quite a bit. Interact. I was missing a letter there. That's fine. Can make fun of how my spelling is. Okay. So with the interact object selected, I want to give it its property interact so we can actually use it. Because we don't want this to happen whenever we're touching any object. If you leave this blank, it'll basically say, oh, any object with collisions on, we're going to count that. So we want interact to be basically a special tag so we can differentiate. So when we do that, we want to set the player position. Now, we don't want this to set to just one position. We want to be able to basically reuse this interact volume anywhere in the game. So I'm going to use colliding object. This is going to say, oh, the object our player is colliding with, we're going to set it to that position, not just one position in the world. Okay, so we also want to grab the position data. So we're going to go world, get world position. Drop that in there, connect that in there. So this is going to be looking for a specific object to set the position to, and we're going to also set that get position to that colliding object. Let's see if I got that right and if it'll actually work. So if I press play, go into our camera view here, make this a little bit bigger. See if we crash the game. Did I save? I did. Okay, we good. So we'll walk up. We're in the volume. So if I press play or press the E key, I guess nothing's quite happening yet. See if we got any errors. So I'm going to toggle the, oops, not toggle full screen. Going to grab my system console. Looks like we're just getting some errors with the vertices, so I'll have to fix those later. That's going to be material errors. That can drop your performance quite a bit as well. If you have too many materials, like say you have an object that has materials on it that aren't applied to that object, it'll just be empty renders and you'll lose performance. I am ancient. That's how old I am. I'm very ancient. I'm an ancient person. Okay. that'll be my my intrigue added to the stream. Okay, let's see. This is obviously not working. We're going to just do a test and set the position to this current object. It'll be fine. Do that as an experiment. And nothing is happening. That's awesome. Perfect. Oh, that's why. I meant to set the thing that we're setting the position of is ourself. So we want to set the position of ourself, not the object. Is there a way to pause and play video in 3.6? There is a way to play video. I do have a tutorial on that, like YouTube. I'd have to think about that one. There probably is a way. Actually, because you're playing sequence, I don't know if there's a way to stop the sequence and then play it from the same position. You might be able to if you count the animation as keyframes. Then you'll be able to stop it on a certain keyframe and then play it from that keyframe just using a save. Like you just save whatever keyframe you paused on. But I'm not entirely sure how to do that. Oh yeah, I'm doing good. Just doing a little bit of a stream while I have a little bit of time today. Hey, okay, so our set position is now working. Obviously, it is spawning us a little bit above the ground, so we don't want that to happen. But the idea is working. So let's see if I do colliding object, put that on my get position. So I want to get the position. There we go. So that works. This will make it so if I say duplicate this and move it over, and we'll just put it there. So you can see it'll set me to that position or it'll set me to this position. So I can reuse this wherever I want. I'll delete that one for now. Alright, so we're about pretty much there. Obviously, I don't want to spawn super high up in the air like that. It's just not really what I need. So there's another thing we can do, I believe. I think what we can do is add an empty, and this will allow us to set a different height. I'll just do a little bit lower, but I'm going to parent the volume to this empty. So this empty needs to be static as well, and it's going to be a ghost and an actor, but I'm going to leave collisions off of it because I want the object that's parented to the empty to take on the same properties of this empty. So let's see if this will currently work. Obviously, I don't know if it will. Let's see if it will. Okay, so it is working. Now we want to set the position to this empty, but we can't just select the empty because Otherwise, we won't be able to reuse it. So what I'm going to want to do is grab a child. Let's see. I think it's a child node. So get child by name, get child by index. No, get parent. So this is the reason we're parenting the cube to the empty. We want to get the parent object. So get parent. There we go. And so we're going to do colliding object, get the parent of the colliding object, and then we're going to set the position to the parent's position instead of our cube's position. So we grab that. Now it looks like we are just a little bit less off the ground. Let's just move it down a little bit more. We don't want to be sitting in the ground. We're actually going to have to move the main cube up. And I'm using the snap feature so that I'm not... That way I can count 2 snaps, and then I can do this, 2 snaps down. See how that looks? We don't want to be setting our character to the floor. Okay, let's do it a little bit lower. You know what? This actually might be unnecessary. I think I just did something. I think this is ridiculous. What am I doing? Let me just unparent this. I forget that we can just move the cube down because we're spawning at this the origin point. So I don't know why I'm trying to make this complicated. Because then we'd have to make it'd just be ridiculous. So let's just take this and then move our collision cube down. It doesn't matter if it's in the floor or not. We just don't want our character to be floating when we interact with this object. Let's just move it down until we are flush with the floor. Almost there. Just a light bit more. Okay, almost there. Just a tad bit more. So it is a little bit of trial and error, but it's fine. There we go. We're pretty much there. One more snap and we should be about the right level. Do that. Hey, alrighty. Okay, perfect. We are no longer falling and hitting the ground. So I could even be kind of to the side of it, and then it'll just set me to where I need to be. So now we need to make it so we face the proper direction. So when we interact with this shelf, our character is going to face it, and we want to also make it so the character can't rotate while the animation is happening. So we're going to have to lock the character's rotation and the position of the character. Because currently I can just press E, the animation will play, but I can walk around and do everything else. We don't want that to happen. Alrighty. Gather my thoughts here. Alright, let's set the rotation. So set world rotation. There we go. And we're just going to connect that to the done socket of our set position node. And we'll do self and the value that we want to set the rotation to. Let's try the colliding object, see what happens. Probably won't do what we want, but it's a starting place. Yep, that's not right. We are now taking a nap, and we do not want to be taking a nap. I guess we could also set it on the z-axis and not the x and y. I think this might... Oh, yeah, and it breaks it. So I think we'll instead of doing that, let's just do rotate 2 instead. So we'll be actually setting the rotation to our object. Target is going to be our get position node. I think this is what our character is using currently for the direction. And then the object we want to set it to is going to be our colliding object. So let's just walk into this again. Obviously, we are not getting the result that is desired. This may be trickier than I thought. Oh, this needs to be self. I always do that. So bad at this engine. Okay. Now, rotation. Still not working. What is the deal? Rotate 2, so we're selecting our player object. Oh, we need to select our pivot object. I totally forgot. I'm using a pivot, I believe. Player pivot. Let's just do, yeah. Okay, player pivot. I need to rotate the pivot and not the actual player. little bit hard to do. Still not working though. Man, I thought I knew what I was doing here. Maybe it's this. Target. Set this to 90 and see what happens. And maybe it's because it's using, let's see, let's do key down. Okay. So, yep. Let's see if it works now that that's on always. Because I think what's happening is it's trying to snap to the empties that it's using for the character movement. Yeah. Since for the character movement, I'm using a, whenever the keyboard is pressed, any key, it's going to be trying to set the character's current direction. So we might run into issues there with this. Let's see. That means I'm gonna have to figure out a way. Let's go over to the player script, and because currently this is what the character is using to rotate, are these nodes here. So when a key is pressed and the key is down, then the character's rotation is going to be set to whatever empty is corresponding with that key. Okay, so I gotta figure out how to, maybe I should do, might have to do a condition saying that this had, like, once this animation starts playing, or this action starts happening, I need to make it so that it doesn't happen unless that's, okay. It's gonna make it really messy though. We're gonna have some spaghetti if I do it that way. So I think currently what I'm gonna have to do, and I'm gonna have to do it anyways, is we're gonna have to lock the rotation, or lock the character movement. I'm gonna select the player, wherever the player object is here. There it is. And what I'm going to have to do is give it a new property, and this is going to be called player. I think we'll just do player lock, because we will lock the player using this property a few times in a few different spots. And we'll do a Boolean. So if this is true, if player lock is true, then the character will obviously be locked. What I want is to evaluate this property. I'm going to select self and select player lock. This is going to be a Boolean. And if this is true, or I guess if this is false, then we'll be able to use our thing, or use our rotation. If this is true, we will not be able to. So what we're going to want to do is do an and I think we'll, let's see. We're going to need an and an or list. Okay, how are we going to do that? I think we'll just do an and for each one. Yep. So grab an and, put it right here. Let's give it a little bit more space. Drop that into here. Remove from frame. Drop it into this frame. There we go. And basically I'm going to add this and to each one of these. It's a little bit squished together, so I'm going to space these apart just to make it a little bit cleaner. And let's see, grab this one, and this one. Yep. Then I want to grab these and move them down. There we go. This is going to be a large node tree. In fact, I wish there was a way to make... Maybe there is. Maybe there's node groups. You can make custom nodes. I've always wanted to try making a custom node. I just never wanted to learn Python, so I never did it. Group. I guess there are groups, so maybe you can group nodes together. That'd be awesome, though. Being able to condense some nodes like Armory does, that would be amazing. Okay, so we are going to connect this over here. So if this is equal to false plus key down, then we'll be able to set our rotation. Now I'm just going to duplicate this and here, like so. And I think what I'm going to do is get a reroute. So I'm going to go reroute like that, and I'm going to put one here. Probably duplicate it a couple of times. And this is just going to go into the and here. Let's see if I can put this in a spot where it'll make sense. Maybe like that. And I am just going to connect this into each and. So down here, there we go. And like this. Nodes are a pain sometimes, I'll tell you what. Okay. Alright, to test this out, if I press play, we should still be able to, yep, our character rotates in the direction that we're moving. Now, if I set this to true, our character will no longer rotate, which is just what we want. So now, what I can do is come over to my interact script again, and I'm going to set property, like so. And I'm going to put this in between the rotate 2. I'm, in fact, going to put this on top right here. And I'm going to select player and player lock. I want this to be a Boolean, and I'm going to set it to true. So when we interact with this object, we will no longer be able to rotate our character, like so. And we're going to have to put this on a timer. So what we're going to have to do is make it so when we interact with the object, it will set a timer for like 0.2 seconds, and then we will have that after that timer is done. If you press the key again, then it will unlock you and just automatically kill the whatchamacallit, the dialog box. But for now, this will be fine. So we're going to set it to true and set the rotation to our shelf. So there we go. So just as a test, let's, instead of looking at the shelf, we'll be looking left. Obviously, we are not working quite properly here. What am I doing wrong? Let me just see what my interact or object were. Yep, player pivot at 0, 1 on the Z and Y. Now, why would this be giving me issues? I've always had issues sometimes with this, where these kind of nodes will just not work. And maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Try rotating it without the selected object. Yeah. We'll do like -90. And it should just, yeah, it'll set the rotation properly that way. Okay. Which is fine. That'll probably work. The only thing is, like, I wanted to set it to the current object, just because, and maybe it's not because it's not in front of the player. So since the player is right on top of that pivot point, or on top of the spawn point, how do you make dialogue work? It's pretty complex, so there's a few ways to do it. So you can script it, obviously. That's the easiest. I think the most effective way is just to learn how to do a little bit of Python scripting, and then script yourself basically like a choose your own adventure story kind of deal, and then just apply it visually. But otherwise you can try it with nodes, but it gets really, really messy. Get these huge spaghetti things. Anyways, hi, what's up? What other software with Blender? Other software with Blender. What do you mean by that? What other software do I use other than Blender? Is that kind of what you mean, or what do you mean exactly? Alrighty. I think what we'll do, other software I use like Godot, and I sometimes use Unity, but ever since, Unity did its thing, I haven't used it as much. But yeah, I'll use, for stuff like modeling, I just use Blender. That's basically my main program. Okay. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Pain. Colliding object. Whatever. I actually am curious if I choose, instead of that, let me grab this. I'm going to get the position of the bookshelf itself. Kind of curious to see if the target will work that way. Ah, I think it did. So I think if I select the bookshelf itself, yeah, it works. So I think, how do I want to do that? Because this is obviously not going to be parented to the specific bookshelf. So how could I grab the name? You know what? Maybe that would be the reason to use that separate empty, is so that I could get the parent object that'll be ahead of it, and then that'll be basically the point direction. So I could rotate the hitbox anywhere, and then it'll just always kind of go to whatever that empty is. That way I don't have to differentiate which shelf is which, because I really don't want to have to do this kind of deal. So let's do that. Let's try that out. Do an empty, plain access empty, and it doesn't really matter all that much. I should just be able to move it forward. And I'm going to call this interact look. There we go. And I'm going to parent my hitbox to that empty. Come over here, static, ghost, actor, and collision. There we go. So theoretically, what I'll do is grab my parent. So get parent, like so. And I'm just going to plug that parent object into the object that I'm grabbing, and the child object will be the one that we collide with. So theoretically, when I grab this, yep, it worked. Okay, that's actually pretty good. So it's a little bit more complex, but it works pretty well. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this is in its own collection, which is going to be my interact collection. And what I can actually do now is go visibility, hide all inside. And actually I want to set my cursor to this so I can actually spawn it in the right spot. And let's just hide these objects. And I'm going to add a collection instance, which is going to be my interact collection. Now that that's right there, the object set origin to volume, set that right there. So theoretically, when I grab this new instance object, it works. And I can actually, I think it might work if I do factor. Let's set that down, see if it'll slowly rotate instead of snap. Let's try that a little bit lower, 0.28. It's actually not bad. I don't know if the rotation is quite as smooth as I would like, but oh yeah, that's fine. Perfect. Now, the next thing we want to do is make it so we actually play the interact animation. So I'm just going to add in a add, or play animation is what it's called here. Play animation. When done, actually we'll do this immediately. So the first thing that's going to happen is this animation is going to play. Just put this on top of this set property. There we go. And then we will select our armature. And the animation I want to use is the search bookshelf. Actually, I think that's the wrong one. Is it book search, or I already forgot the name of my animation. Yep, search bookshelf. That's what it's called. Search bookshelf. And this is going to be 120 frames long. Start at 1. And we're just going to do a play. So we'll just play it. And you can actually see we got a few more options if we go to the advanced settings, which is pretty nice. We can, I'm pointing at the screen, why am I doing that? You can change the speed of the animation, the blend of the animation. So I actually want to set this to 6. And so what are you doing? So basically I'm doing animations. So I'm making it so when you interact with an object, a interact animation will play. So like walk up to a bookshelf, you'll pick a book off the shelf and then open it up, and then a text box will appear eventually. And then I'm going to kind of do that for different items in the game. So just an animated interaction sequence. Okay, so the layer is going to be pretty important. So I actually want to go to the player script because I have some layers already set here. So layer 2 and layer 3 are going to be for my jog and my idle animation. So in interact, I'm going to set this to 4. Seems like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Making games is a lot of work. But you know, it's a lot of fun. I think this is pretty cool. I think my favorite thing, I love animation and I love making games, so I kind of want to combine them. So doing a game where it's heavily animation based, like every interaction has a little animation, but I don't want it to be too overbearing. So like, I don't want it to take away from the game experience, but it's going to be mostly a story game, so I think it'll be okay. Combat, I want to also do a combat system. So not super advanced, but I have an idea for it. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, so I need this to be layer 3. No, layer 4, because 2 and 3 are my other animations. So theoretically, when we play the game, and we walk up to our bookshelf and interact with it, our animation plays. And then we go back. So now when we're finished with this animation, I want this set property, so I'll duplicate that again. And I want it to unlock the player when on finished. So when the character's done searching, and the text box appears, I want this to unlock the player. And then we can play again. So obviously we need to lock the player so it can't move, but it's kind of the general idea. Alrighty, but that's working. Now the thing is, in the future, I'm just doing this for an example because setting the property after the animation's done is obviously not what you want, because you don't want the player to unlock while you're in the dialog box. So theoretically in the future, the dialog box will lock the player. And this is just for this stuff. For examples. But for now, I'm going to go back to the player script because I need to lock the actual player movement so the player cannot move while we're in the midst of our animation. We're in the midst of interaction. Okay, so currently our movement script is like this, and we have this is walking, and this is just where are you doing the play animation? So basically I'm doing the play animations on my character script. So the interact script is attached to the player, and the player script is also. So you can see that my animation player here is, I have an animation player for the movement because the animations are tied to the player's vector. So when the player is actually moving and that vector is 1, the walk animation is playing, and when that is equal to 0, the player is idling. So that's why they're here. And then the interact animation is in the interact script. I like to keep things in different scripts since it keeps things a lot cleaner. You do end up with a lot of scripts eventually, but I think it's better than having these giant sprawling spaghettis. Which editor? This is the logic node editor. Just basic, like you just drag down and you can select the logic node editor right there. Actually, my face is kind of in the way. Let me drag that up. So, right here, logic node editor. Man, I need a drink of water. All this talking is making me thirsty. Okay. Ooh, it's also hot. It's like 90 degrees today. Not good for me. I don't know why I'm wearing this shirt. Okay, so currently I want to lock the player movement. So let's see. I have it currently set to keyboard active, so the walk is going to happen when the keyboard is active. So what I want to do is add an and here. And I'll just put that on the bottom since my evaluate property is going to go on top. Not like that. Let's see. Oops. Here, 1 second. I'm having some technical difficulties here. This is annoying. Just get in the box. There you go. Okay, I think the logic node isn't on by default. So yeah, if you download the game, if you just have downloaded UPBGE, then you'll want to go to Edit, Preferences, go to Add-ons, and then in the add-ons, you just have to type in the search bar Logic Nodes Plus, like so, and it'll be right here. Why don't I have the logic? Why don't I have the logic editor? Depends if you have UPBGE. So when you download it, if it's the newer version, I'm explaining, like you'll go into your Blender preferences, search it in here, and it might not be, it might just not be enabled. Once it is enabled, make sure that you have like version 1.95 for 1 or 3.6. That'll be the default. Anyways, got any idea how to drastically reduce the exe export size? Because even if you export the default cube with no logic, your game will be like 500 megabytes and some, yeah. So the reason that happens is you're downloading, it has to do with the let me think about how to explain this. So Blender's license basically says that you need to have because it's a GPL license, you need to have Blender available in your project. So when you export your game, it's because you have a whole instance of Blender in there. And I have tried to remove some of the files to make that file size smaller, but it's just something you have to deal with. In fact, I don't think I want to do it right now, but I don't think I have it enabled currently. This project file is probably going to be like 200 megabytes. I think most of my EXEs are around the 100 to 200 megabyte range, which I mean is big, but it's honestly not that large of a game if you think about it. Maybe I'm just have a different perspective because every time I download a game on Steam, it's like 50 gigs. So I'm not too worried about that 500 megabytes myself. But yeah, I don't really know of a good way to reduce that size. Okay. Okay, so basically I need to lock the player's movement, so I want to make sure that this is only happening when this is false. So if the player lock is false, theoretically when we go and interact with our shelf again, we cannot move the character. No moving until it's over. Great. Looks a little bit goofy since you can't really see the player from this angle. In fact, let me just duplicate this shelf. Like so, and then we'll bring it out to the other side. Yep. Okay. Rotate 180 degrees. There we go. And we'll bring this out. Okay, so now we should be able to see it in action. There we go. Now I wonder if that is too close. So if I just zoom in here so we can see what's actually happening. So if I interact with the shelf, we're kind of phasing into the shelf. So I think what I'm going to do is move this. I mean, this is kind of the beauty of it. We can just move this out a little bit. And then when we interact with the shelf, move it out just a tad bit more. There we go. And it plays the animation. The books aren't in there, but I'll probably add that later as a polish thing, but that's pretty cool. It does have a little bit of a snap as the animation finishes, and that's a blending issue. I think what I'll have to do is, I guess it has to do with where the animation is blending from. The layers for logic nodes are kind of weird. I don't know, sometimes they don't, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I think it has to do with the order, because they changed the order things work in the newer versions. But yeah. Hey, that's pretty cool though. In fact, I will do the same with this one. Just move it out a little bit. When we press play, yeah, there we go. And so that'll open the text box eventually. That'll be cool. Alrighty. Now, I guess what you can do is make a couple of these, so different versions, and attach different animations to the different boxes here. So in the interact script, we have, basically this will all be one thing. So Control J, and I'm going to rename this. We have all these nodes too that aren't being used. You can press Control and H, and it'll hide a bunch of that stuff, so you can shrink these nodes down, which is pretty nice. And I've consolidate everything. In fact, I'm going to do that with these nodes too. Control H. Guess it only did it with one. That's fine. And then if you want them to be even more consolidated, you can just hide them like so. But it's totally preference. I'm going to call this logic node set of logic nodes here. This will be shelf interact. There we go. And then I will duplicate this and make it for a couple of different objects, which we'll have to do the animations for as well. But for now, that'll work. So I can actually take this little hitbox here that we made, and I can just duplicate it and put it on any shelf. I think I have a couple of items here, or a couple of shelves. Yeah, like these two here. So I'll just put it in front of here and rotate that 180 degrees. Move it out a little bit, and then I can put it on both of these. Now, if we play the game, we go to the mess hall, walk all the way down here. We can walk over to our shelves. If we press E, player animation. So you can see that we are jumping a little bit, so we do have to lower these down. Oh yeah, you can see that they're way up there. There we go. Should be able to walk down here again. I'm actually pretty happy with the collisions too. It does, like, I'm not getting hung up on a bunch of stuff. There we go. Still a little bit of a bounce. By the way, the character needs to be in one object. When I play the game preview, my character jumps out of a place. So the character need to be in one object. When I play the game preview, my character jumps out a place. So by that, do you mean like when you start the game, your character kind of gets pushed out somewhere? Because it could be that you have a collision. So like if you have an object that's attached to your player or parented to your player, and it's on static or something, or it'll like push your player out. Or if you have something with a collision box that is overlapping with the player, that could happen. If I'm understanding you right. There we go. Alrighty. Ooh, there is something right here. I must have like an invisible object or something. Because it's like, it's not right here, it's just in the center. What do I have? Is there like a... What is in the way? What are you getting stuck on? Nothing hidden. So bizarre. I have something I can see in these modes? No? Maybe it's just the hitbox. I don't know. It's kind of strange. I have to fix that. See if these are fixed. It's kind of the fun part, getting to test your own project. There we go. It's a little bit better. I think it could get fixed just a tad bit more. It's a little bit jumpy. Yeah. It's fine. Kind of get the idea though. So, oh yeah, it does. Yeah. So I think what we'll do is the next animation. I think we're ready for that. So I'm going to go back to the player, animation, and select objects. We'll do a select invert. We'll just hide everything again. Select all these objects and set them to the center of the world. And let's do the next animation. Alright, going into the animation editor. So I think the next object I want to interact with, I have some crates, I have a kind of a flour sack to interact with. Make sure my camera isn't dying. We're good for a little bit longer. I think we got about 15 more minutes. So I need to interact with flour sack. I have a pot that I want to interact with. So the cauldron. So let's see, how would I want to do that? In fact, let's see. Here are the things we want to interact with. I want to interact with this pot, so the character can do something with that. They got the shelf here that the player can interact with. Barrels, I think I want the player to interact with as well. And then, might be fun to also make it so you could sit down in a chair. That might be a fun little mechanic. Do you ever import animations from Mixamo? I try not to. There's issues, I mean, especially licensing issue, you could run into that. I think Mixamo overall has a decent license. Like, I think you can also read them. But they're also just frustrating for me. Like, you can import them, so you download them as an FBX file, and then you can import them into Blender that way. I mean, yeah, you could totally do it. There's a lot of tutorials online how to do it as well. It's basically the same as just doing it in normal Blender, and then just using logic nodes to apply them. All right. So let me grab my note. I need to make a new notepad here. So new, we'll do a text document. I'm going to call this animation list in all caps because, man, I do that all the time. There we go. Bring that back. So there's a few animations I want to do, and just so I don't forget, I have such a bad memory. I'm gonna do a interaction list, and underneath here I want to do fireplace or the fire pit, and I want to do sit in chair. I think we'll also do interact with pot for the cooking pot, and let's see, what else do we have here? We got a couple more things. I don't think we'll interact with the tables. I think those are gonna be fine not to. Maybe we'll do an interaction with the bed. Oh yeah, and I want to do an interaction with the flour sack as well. So we'll do flour sack. Man, I'm terrible. There we go. And then we'll probably do one for the bed as well. Quite a few animations so far. That's kind of the list we got. And then a few more things later on, but that'll be good enough. Maybe a general interaction animation too. Okay. Man. Oh. All right, I think we're gonna do. I think we're probably gonna end up doing a part 2 on this one. I think I got a few things I need to take care of here. Yeah, already. Sweet. Well, I'm going to. Well, thank you all so much for watching this little stream. Doing mostly animations. I think we're gonna do one more stream with animations, depending on how much I do and get done. And then I think we'll probably move on to another project. So. Probably a project in the next day or two. That's going to be separate from this main project. In fact, actually, I think we have a list still with some of the other games. Yeah, this fixed stream list here. So we got the ball game. I think I want to work on one of these. So kind of working with, do a community game again. We'll see if anything actually gets finished. And hopefully I can do some longer streams as well. We'll see how things go. Is your setting a church or dungeon or... Yeah, so it's kind of like it's like a hall. So it's kind of like where the king sits, you know. What do you call it? There's a specific name. But it's basically a hall. So everybody goes there and like the king will be talking and doing their thing. Or generally that's what they would do in this building. But it's all ruins. Like you can see, I got some rubble. This is all dilapidated. I got this table that has a rock pile that fell on it. Most of the stuff is destroyed. Got some broken barrels in here. And then some general rubble. These rooms are still a little bit empty. I need to do a little bit of work here. But, yeah. There's definitely going to be a lot of art and stuff that still needs to get done. A little bit more design. But overall, this is kind of the layout that I'm going for. And this is just the first room. You can see where the stairs go down. It's going to go down into a courtyard. And then these stairs are going to go up into an outside space that's kind of in a cavern. So yeah, that's kind of the general idea. All right, I'm going to head out. Thank you all so much for watching. It has been such a great time. I'm so glad that you guys like to watch my stuff. Watch me work. Hard to find tutorials and content for UPBG. Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to make a couple, like, there might not be full tutorials, but in the future I do plan on making UPBG related content, and it'll be educational. It'll still be able to help you kind of figure stuff out. Mostly concept stuff. But yeah. Alrighty, I'm gonna take off. Take care, everyone.